From beautiful East Tennessee in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, you are listening to the Sherry Voluntary Show, and I do appreciate your time with me. Today, I'm going to have an interesting guest doing something I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but my guest today is Benjamin, is it Lade or Lade? I didn't think to ask that.
Late.
Lade, Benjamin Lade, and he has got a really interesting project called Fort Galt that he's involved with, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Welcome to the show, Benjamin. I appreciate you being here today and your time getting ready for the show.
Yeah, it's been planning to, well, hoping to be on here for quite a while now. So yeah, I'm glad it's happening finally.
Great. So this, I was as I was doing the research for this program, I was really like getting excited about what you're doing, and I won't claim to know everything about it, but it seems really interesting and something that I think people are going to be really excited to hear about. So, tell us a little bit first before we get into that about yourself and how you got involved in. I take it you're a libertarian, um, or
Had
how would you label yourself? Let's go start with that.
yeah. Yeah, so originally from Canada. Um, I I traveled a lot. Only went back to Canada to work to save enough money to go traveling again.
Hmm.
Then when I was about 25, I wanted to get like financial security and move out of Canada and start a like settle down someplace in the tropics, overseas somewhere.
Nice and warm.
Uh, yeah, so I spent some time in Canada just working to save money. Then I started looking into, for the first time ever, into really like politics, some philosophy and things like that, and went through all that pretty rapidly. And yeah, I got into how it all just mostly for me boils down to uh, economics to make changes. It's governments, it's economic freedoms, which really drive prosperity and
Right.
everything like that. So yeah, I became classical liberal, and then just trying to think of like, well, how do you go about making the world a better place from just the individual standpoint. And then I heard about Bitcoin for the first time. So
Right.
I, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it pretty much answered every question I had for, the, vote with your dollars and everything like that. So, yeah, I became a diehard crypto person in probably 2013. And, yeah, and then so I worked for 5 years in Canada, saved all my money, and then started looking at places to expatriate to. And coming from Canada, I had a good passport, so that helped a lot.
Hmm.
I wanted to go someplace cheaper, not too far away from Canada, so I could still be in touch with my family. I was spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, but it's lots of countries there. You can't own land. So then I started looking into South America. Costa Rica was getting a lot more expensive and too touristy for my liking, and then started looking at like Central America, some dangerous countries, just poor infrastructure, things like that. I went and checked it out. Wasn't awesome. Uh, and then yeah, I heard about the Fort Galt project.
Yeah. And so
That's yeah.
you were involved. There was another Galt project before this one, correct? And you were kind of involved in that, and then that kind of bottomed
Well,
out. And is that how that went?
yeah. Luckily for me, so I was working in northern Canada in some mines, and I just lived up there and worked, and I was saving money, and I was looking. I heard about Galts Gulch in Chile, and yeah, they had properties there. You could buy like an acre of land for around $50,000. So that was like something I could do if and I'm a carpenter as well, so I planned on just build my own house, cottages, and things like that. Yeah, and so actually about 3 paychecks away from making the payment for the property, and it fell apart. So I was saved. But yeah, lots of people got burned on that pretty badly.
So now, how did that transfer from you being, buying into something to starting something completely new?
Yeah, so I stayed in Canada. I kept working, and then yeah, just trying to make a new plan where I was going to go, what I was going to do. Trying to like I wanted the community. I wanted to be surrounded by people that were into cryptocurrency and the philosophy. Just yeah, 5 years in Canada was I lived online. Like that's where I just podcasts. That's where I got stimulation and things like that.
Sure.
So yeah, I just wanted to surround myself with like-minded people when I settled
Yeah.
down someplace
I
to
think
build.
sometimes that's what people forget is that within all this, the whole point is to basically build community. Like that's a big part of what I'm interested in, is in building communities of like-minded individuals that, after the boogaloo, as they say, that
Uh,
that that I can trust that these people, there's a standard of nonviolence and a standard of, uh, ownership and things like that, private property rights, and people, that's what we all want, is a community of people that um, we can live freely around and not worry about them trying to enact forceful legislation or anything else against us. So I think that's really great. It's looking less and less like that's going to be available in the United States, um, in any time in our lifetimes anyway. So to just start somewhere else, I think, is the sort of the sentiment you hear from people, all the time of, well, if you don't like it, then you can just leave. Well, okay, some people are doing that, and they're figuring out a way to build communities that are more in line with the philosophy that we hold.
yeah, so yeah, I was looking at like seasteading sounds great, but that's years away.
Yeah.
Um, Lieberland, when I heard about that, that was exciting. And I actually I was at Freedom Fest a couple weeks ago and met some people from
Mm-hmm.
Lieberland, and it sounds hopeful,
Yeah.
and so that's exciting. But then also the Free State Project, but I'm Canadian, so that was not.
Right.
Um, I wouldn't be able to immigrate to the States
Yeah.
very easily at all. So
It's a tough thing to do.
yeah, yeah, the options were slim. So I was looking at Acapulco for a bit, but just I kind of wanted like uh, not to be in a big giant city,
Right.
like right in the heart of it.
And
And Mexico just kind of like the tourism and things I didn't really like.
yeah, I think, we know that all governments are corrupt, but Mexico has a special a special kind of corruption on every single level. So in a way it works out for people if they have enough money to drive the police to get out of things. But the police are pretty predatory, just like they are here, from what I understand. So I have a friend that spent time in a Mexican prison because he was sailing around the world with his father, and their ship, there was like a bad storm and they were damaged, so they kind of washed up on the shores of Mexico, and of course weren't supposed to be there, but it was an emergency. Anyways, they got put in prison, and once people could pay enough money, they were out, but it took several months to kind of negotiate and get get back on the high seas. But it was an interesting experience. So I know a little bit about the kind of, it's lawlessness in a not good way in a lot of cases, because it's all based on if you can pay and who's vulnerable, and the police, which are state agents, are kind of out to get people, in some cases. So is Chile, I guess it's not like that then.
Oh, yeah, it's actually the second safest country in the Americas,
Great.
right after Canada. So, yeah, it's safer than the States. Yeah, very minimal corruption in the government. The police are quite laid back and friendly.
Good.
Um, yeah, they don't bother you. Whenever I get pulled over, I just, unload a bunch of documents on them, and they just go,
Oh,
"Oh,
okay.
we don't need to deal with this.
Bingo, go
Carry on."
away.
Yeah.
So
This is too much work. Please leave us
right,
alone.
how is the do you really can you get by if you were just a visitor, say? And I think if you moved there, you would probably definitely need to learn Spanish. But if you were just going to check it out or whatever, how well do most people speak a little English? How well could you get by?
Yeah, so 10% of the population does speak English. But down where we are, we live in Valdivia is a half an hour away from us, which is a city of 180,000 people, universities, but also tourism. So they have 500,000 tourists a year. And then the region that it's in is lots of like adventure tourism, rock climbing, Patagonia, things like that. So
Right.
then another 500,000 just in the region. So, and then also two universities. So we have lots of foreign students. And then the university students, lots of them have to learn English for their studies. So yeah, you can get by with English. Your life's going to be a lot easier if you learn Spanish.
Sure.
But,
Right.
yeah.
So so on to then the Galts. eh, Tell me, is it Fort Galt? I'm sorry, that was the other one. Galts Gulch was the failed that you weren't a part of. You were trying to buy into, but so this is
Yeah.
Fort Galt, and what is the whole goal, purpose? What's going on with that?
So, yeah, there are four people that actually were down there looking to invest. They were on the ground in Galts Gulch, just seeing the place, looking at property right when it collapsed. And there was a married couple, a man from Arizona, and then a man from Vancouver. And as it collapsed before their eyes, they started talking and just saying like, "Well, this is a shame. We don't want to go home, and we still want this to happen." And so yeah, they spent 9 months traveling Chile looking for another property to just do it themselves. So yeah, they founded Fort Galt 4.5 years ago, I think it is,
Okay.
and yeah, they just a community of like-minded people. Um, everybody's on the same page. You don't have to. You can just skip all that. Where do you stand on this, or just. So yeah, then, I was just the first person to move down there 2 years ago. I moved down to Valdivia. I just went to go check it out. I've followed it for a while. But it was slow going because they didn't have a big financial backer. They did it themselves. And so yeah, I went down with a day bag and saw the place and met the people and never left. So then about a year ago, I actually moved out to the property. So I bought a lot for myself, and yeah, I moved out there, started to develop my property, and yeah, it's kind of small. So there's Fort Galt is the like the flagship building. It's a 23 unit like condominium,
Okay.
and so that's just across the street from me. And then the whole property is owned by an old Chilean man. And the history of the property, it was going to be an eco gated community, like off the grid, solar panels, all that stuff, but for affluent Chileans. But it was being done back in 2007, and then 2008-9 happened, and all the investors pulled out. So it was already like roads, electricity, water, everything was done. But then it collapsed. And then a couple of years later, the four like founders, they found this property. So yeah, the Chilean businessman, he owns it. He still owns the majority of the lot, so he has voter ownership of how it's going to be developed right now and the name and everything like that. But I was down there doing some videos, some drone videos. I was started like contacting people, trying to get more of the word out about it because there's no like marketing budget for the development. So
Right.
I'm just
So
pretty much a bunch of just living in Chile.
yeah,
So
as an investor, it behooves you to market the thing because you want other people to live there. Like you want it to succeed since you've invested your finances into it. So it makes sense.
yeah. And I didn't want to be living in the woods by myself for years until I showed up. So I was, yeah, I just wanted some
How
neighbors.
many are there any other people living on the property right now? Like not necessarily on your property, but in the development, are there any other people actually living there full time?
Yeah, so I moved out there about a year ago. Um, I spent 6 months by myself, and then um, another man, one of the original founders, Patrick White. He's from Arizona, and he moved out there to oversee like the construction of Fort Galt, and we just like security and try and just speed up the process. And then another man from Australia, he moved out 2 months ago, I think. So yeah, no, there's three of us, but hopefully, like that's the thing is the closest town to us is is really close. It's only a 10-minute walk down the hill,
Oh, wow.
but where we are, it's still like undeveloped forest land. So there's yeah, there's just three of us living in the woods right now in shipping
I always said it's
tiny
living in the
homes.
woods. Like you
Yeah,
some kind
but
of
hopefully Fort Galt, the big building, will be done this summer. So yeah, there can be I don't know, between 30 and 50 people living in there in all the condos. So that'll really kind of kick things off
sure.
once more people are on the
That'll
ground.
be great, and
And
then there'll be more people talking about it. And so, how many? I take it
yeah.
most of are all the apartments sold at this point?
No, I think they have out of the 23 units, 14 are sold, and there's nine left still.
Okay. So people can get
Yeah.
in on that, and that might be a good starter way to go in and feel your way out. And then if you're not crazy about it, you can rent it out or sell it or something, or upgrade to a bigger apartment or a lot or something like that. How many lots for building homes are left?
So 61 lots altogether. Six are community spaces for tennis courts, dog parks, whatever. Um, and then, yeah, the 55 lots, 20 are sold,
Okay.
55 left. So, yeah, we're getting pretty. Last year, it picked up more just people being on the ground. There's video content and things like that. So hopefully this summer, more construction, more people living on the ground. It'll speed up because there's lots of people that have been following the project for a long time, but just been watching and waiting. So
So now maybe the lots for building a home, that is the loberia, correct? Or is that something completely different? 'Cause so the
yeah,
galt.
so they just marketed the whole community as Fort Galt. But then when I was living there, the old man that still owns the 35 lots, he asked me if I wanted to market the remainder of his lots for him.
Mm,
And so I said, yeah, like I was already doing this for free, I might as well, have a bit of a budget
right?
to produce a website and go to Freedom Fest and all these things and do the podcast. So yeah, but legally he's still owns the majority share, so he still wants it called the Loberia until we can sell enough lots and vote to change it back. Because yeah, most people they like Fort Galt for the community name.
With
Um,
the
so
ideology of it. Yeah, I
yeah.
imagine you took the drone videos. I was looking at the loberia.com, and there's some. I mean, the land is beautiful. The Punta Corinaco. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Corinaco. Um, Gorgeous. Like that's all right down the hill from you, from where this development is. Correct, or is that part of the development?
yeah, no. So we have 100 acres, like the entire development, and then um, just east and north of us is rural farmland, but it's real rural. So we're surrounded by forest on those sides, and then south of us is a 200-acre nature reserve of old growth forest, which is Punta Carnyanco Nature Reserve. So that'll never be developed, and that's yeah, we share a property line with them. So yeah, we have access to the park.
Gorgeous.
And then, yeah, most everybody in all the lots has ocean views to the west, and then also south is the little beach town of Koronyanko. With so also the southern lots have views of the bay, which is real nice too. Yeah, and then the little town had like 200 people, 3 little restaurants and a grocery store. So
Nice. I mean,
yeah.
it definitely looks like a beautiful place to be. Let's get into a little bit about the area, though. How difficult is it for a Westerner, American, Canadian, snow Mexico, as I call it? How is it for them to go there and start a business? Because here there's a lot of licensure, and you have to first get into the place. And is it a difficult process for people going down there?
No, so Chile also ranks third in the Americas on the Economic Freedom Index. So they're, and also like very resource-based economy, copper, all the mining, wine, tourism, agriculture, fishing, lumber, things like that. And then their giant coastline with all the importing, exporting for South America that they do. So yeah, they're very business open, open to foreign investment, open to immigration. So you can show up with, if you buy a lot or an apartment, if you spend more than $10,000 investing in the country, then you can get a investor visa, which is good for a year, and then you can apply for residency, and then you can also apply for a passport if you want one too.
Right.
So yeah, you can become a resident with a $10,000 investment, and then you can get like a tax number, a social insurance number. You can start a business, you can get a job. Yeah, you can own property.
So there aren't separate visas for, like, I know the process. I'm just familiar with the American process. So you can have a student visa, but you can't work on a student visa. You can only go to school, and there's all these separate visas that you have to have. But so Chile isn't like that. You can just go, and as long as you're an
Yeah,
investor.
yeah, no, within the 3 months of landing, you can have yeah, your residency application like filed. You can have a temporary tax number, so you can start working, start a business, get a bank account, own property. Yeah, it's pretty, like, the Chilean bureaucratic system is like they're transitioning from um, like paper and typewriters and fax machines to putting everything online now. So it's 2 years ago it was a little slow, but now everything's online application, so that's gone faster. But yeah, no, within 6 months you can be just living like every other Chilean, operating like a resident does. And so
It's
yeah.
really great to be able to kind of hit the ground running, because I think a lot of people might be interested in doing something like this, but aren't sure how they're going to survive. Because that's part of the
Yeah.
thing where you're at. You've got all this, invested into. You already work here. We speak the language. There's a lot kind of momentum into what you're already doing. So, knowing how difficult or easy it is to start up a business, or to get a job, get employment, there is, I think, an important thing that most people probably think about. What about the cost of living? What is the? I imagine it's less than a lot of places in the States, but is it a generally high, or is it low cost of living?
No, so it's probably about the same as parts of the States. It's 10x cheaper than where I came from in Vancouver, but no, food will cost you about the same. Um, Apartments, like, rent would be pretty similar to like a small American city. Um, So yeah, like building construction, it's about the same prices. So per square foot for building a house will be between, like, because we're half an hour out of the city. So transportation workers, commuting and things like that. It's about $150 to $200 a square foot to build. But yeah, if you're looking for like an apartment, like a one-bedroom apartment with like a gym, granite countertops and everything like that, it'll probably in the city it'll cost you probably $600 to $800 a month.
Really?
So yeah, this is yeah, it's really it's not cheap for sure. But
Well, I was
uh
thinking that actually sounds pretty cheap. I don't think in I live in
oh
Knoxville, Tennessee, and that Knoxville, Tennessee is it's pretty it's a lot cheaper to live here than it was when I lived in, say, New York or something. The South is generally cheaper than a lot of places. And in Knoxville, we're like the third or fourth largest city in Tennessee. And so, for an apartment with all the amenities, a gym, and I mean, you're looking at probably close to $800 to $1,000 a month at least, I would think. I haven't apartment shopped in a while, but I'm assuming that's the last home I rented was $1,200 a month. So I, I mean, you can get homes cheaper than that, but that sounds pretty reasonable to me. It sounds pretty
yeah,
good. $600
yeah.
a
Well,
month in rent, like that's not bad.
some people are shocked about like where I live. Like they ask, "Oh, well, where do you live?" Say, "Oh, I live in Chile," and they say, "Oh, how much is a lot?" And I say, "Well, I bought mine for $50,000 for 1.2 acres." And they go, "Oh, well, that's not very cheap." But I'm
Near the
on the
beach.
ocean. Yeah, I have ocean views. If this was British Columbia, California, Oregon, Washington State, that's going to be $1 million property that
Easy. At least a
I
million. Like you're talking at least a million. There are in Chattanooga where I grew up and my family still lives. I think there are condos there going for a lot of money. I don't know if it's a million, but close to that to buy that are just on the river. Like they're not even a
yeah.
beach. So
And
yeah.
lots of other like so it's Chile, so there is some like pros in it being Chile is my property taxes are less than $400 a year.
Hmm.
I have friends in New Hampshire, they're paying $8,000 a year. And then on my
That's great.
property too, it's zoned right now as agricultural land, so it can't be subdivided any smaller than 1.2 acres.
Okay.
But because it's Chile, you can still turn your property. You can build uh, two homes on there and a garage, like a barn. So you can have a 10,000 square foot barn if you want to. Um, but then you can also turn that barn into a restaurant or a store, or you can have yoga studios. It's like the zoning for that stuff is easy. So yeah, you can turn your living room into a coffee shop if you like, which is great. And yeah, also too, the our city of Valdivia, which is a half hour away, they got voted #1 in Chile for standard of living and also for tourism this year.
Wow.
So that's rapidly, and there's lots of business opportunities there too. If you do want to move and start a business like a restaurant or like a hostel or hotel or get into the tourism because we're on the edge of Patagonia.
Right.
So yeah, surfing, sea kayaking, paddleboarding, rock climbing, mountain biking, like all those outdoor sports are there. Skiing is only 2 hours away in the
Wow.
mountains.
That's great.
Um,
I love that kind of. I used to live in Colorado in the High Plains Desert on the western slope, and I loved it. I loved it there because you could be in the mountains like in no time. I think it took us an hour to get up to like Aspen or whatever, but there was a lot of hiking in the desert and the Colorado National Monuments there, and I really like that kind of because I like to go do outdoor things, and I like being able to drive an hour or two, three, and get to something that's totally different than where I'm at normally. So that's really cool. I like that.
and also, wine country is only 2.5 hours away too.
Oh, nice.
So
That's very nice.
yeah.
I like the wine. Uh, so as a homeschooler, you may not know much about this, but are you allowed? I know some countries it's illegal to homeschool, in a lot of countries in Europe. So is homeschooling something that people even care about down there? Do they care if you
No,
homeschool?
that's been one of the biggest draws for our community is Germans wanting to get out of Germany and homeschool because it is illegal to homeschool there.
Hmm.
And then they're having a bit of a crisis right now. Just Europe is problems. And yeah, no, it's amazing how many countries you can't homeschool in. So there is, in the city we have there is there's a big German population there, and there's a private school with 800 students. But then there is a whole network of homeschoolers, and then also too lots of Christians and Catholics.
Hmm.
So they're big into the homeschooling. We know a few expats that there's an expat homeschooling network as well. Um, yeah, it's it's nice. Like I like to live abroad, but I also like to be surrounded by like some people I can relate with from
Sure.
back home. So yeah, big expat community. Homeschooling's been a big draw for the community. We have one world schooling family so far. I think they're hoping to build their house this summer. Um, and then we've had a few digital nomad families come through.
Hmm.
Um, Chile is yeah. There's a pretty strong expat community like throughout Chile. So yeah, we're myself. I've been trying to market to homeschoolers, world schoolers, and homesteaders.
Cool.
So yeah, like with all our land, we're hoping to build like a small town, store, our own coffee shop, our own restaurants. Yeah, like your rap community of a couple like 300 to 600 people, hopefully.
In on in the whole um, Fort Galt project, or on
Yeah,
your particular land? So it's,
in the whole 100 acres that we have, depending on density, it could be between 300 to like 1,500 people in the 100 acres. And then we also have room to expand as well because we're in rural farmland. So yeah, this is like the people that founded Fort Galt. They wanted to start small and just because lots of these communities have failed and so many people have been trying to do this for a long time. So yeah, everything they've had it going and it's been working like very slowly though. But yeah, just get it to work and like get that strong community
right,
base and then expand and then hopefully go to other countries too. Like this is until we can go to Lieberland or seasteading.
right.
Um, getting communities is a good starting point.
Yeah, and we know how that's going for, the seasteaders that just got basically their stuff
Yeah.
blown up or whatever. Like that was really terrible. And I have interviewed someone from Lieberland, and um, that all those projects, they're great ideas. They just take time. It's for something that's not been done before. Uh, and for people trying to figure it out, sometimes it's a lot of stops and starts. So, I appreciate people when they really get something off the ground, anything, because as anyone who's ever started a business knows, it's a tough thing to do, and you don't know what you don't know, and you have to kind of run into it and learn it as you do that. So I really appreciate people kind of putting their money where their mouth is too, because look, it's people who invest early on are taking a big risk. Like it seems like your project is pretty far along at this point, and you're living there. There are people living there. It sounds like it's going to take off. So, with as many units as you have sold already and things like that, so I think that's going to be a big benefit to whoever comes next. You guys will be a resource for how what you ran into and what you learned and how to operate and go about these things, because there's just not a lot of people with that experience of starting a community. Like not many people start a city, right?
Yeah, well, and just all the learning curves in a foreign country too, with the
Yeah.
language barrier, with the cultural barriers, with yeah, just showing up in the other side of the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, like, just this is a gated community. Like we, the Free State Project was sounded great.
Mhm.
I think it was a bit. Uh, I don't know. I've never been, but as a Canadian, I can't be part of it. So,
Right.
yeah, Chile just opened immigration. So, um, and close at like a good price point. Like this is it's established, so it's completely feasible. Like this
Mhm.
is there can be 100 of these, across the world in a less than 10 years um, if the market wants it, if the market demands more of these communities. So I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah, sure. That's I think that's one of the benefits, like with the Free State Project. I mean, it really is a great idea. Um, but I think with I find it like when I talk to party libertarians over, an anarchist like myself, our ideology as far as what can be done is different. And in that, I think in the Free State Project, where I think one of the biggest benefits of it has been giving many people community. Because I know a lot of people who live there and are really happy because there are a lot of people like what you're trying to build that are like minded. You can really feel comfortable around them. They're not going to get weirded out when talk your anarchy stuff or whatever. Like you're on the same page. And so but as far as like the same argument that I have all the time with people is why the political system is crap and it's violence, and so I'm doing something else. It's sort of that same sort of thing that you can get where you have two different people who are like-minded but two different ways of going about maybe what to change the system, in the Free State
Yeah,
Project. And I just don't think that it's panning out quite that way, that politics is going to change what we need it to change. They're never gonna vote themselves free. That's not gonna happen. That's not the way the state works. So you can
yeah,
get
and
more
just
freedoms.
it's a lot of people in like a big place. Like if there is like 20,000 freedom-loving people, they're gonna be on all kinds of different levels, and
Right.
it's not compatible, maybe for the most part. So yeah, like,
Right.
uh, like I went to so I've been touring around the States recently. I went to, yeah, Freedom Fest, Anarcho Vegas, and FeeCon. Um, and, it's the closest kind of, people kind of leaning towards the same thing, but there's a handful of people that I really meshed with well in FeeCon, Anarcho Vegas. Lots of people, there maybe I had like just a couple good conversations. They were a bit, doing it on the whole, like just way out there for me. And then Freedom Fest was right in the middle, but then also too you have like all the business professionals, which after a conversation they're anarchists, but they won't say they're anarchists because
Right.
it's like bad for business, and or even libertarian for that.
Right.
Um, and and then some of the people that yeah, just come out and like, oh, I'm anarchist, and you're like, oh, great, but there's thousands and thousands of people out there, and like, maybe it's a matter of like scalability. I don't think maybe like a functioning. So the guys that started this too, they were talking a lot about the Dunbar number, um,
Mm-hmm.
what a functioning village numbers can be and stuff like that. So um, yeah, I think because all this is, well, in the modern day, all these kind of communities are unproven. So the Free State Project is massive, and I think maybe small communities have been proven, they're functioning out there.
And
But yeah,
people used to, like, you used to, I think, we have a more global world now. There are people move more from place to place than they used to. It's not like in my say my grandparents, great grandparents' day, where the social norms that you had in a community were pretty much everybody. almost everybody. There were always marginalized people, but um, there were certain community standards that everyone sort of lived by, and those can be either good or bad. They can box you in just as much as they can make life easy. Like look at the Amish. Yeah, their lives are living by the standards where everybody tells you how wide your hat brim can be and whether what the buttons on your shirt can be like. That makes a lot of choices easy, but it also limits your freedom quite a bit. So I think that's a really great point, is that we're trying to build a community based on, or you're trying to build a community based on ideology, philosophy, people's understanding of what freedom is. And that's sort of a really kind of a new way to build a community. um, so I wish you all the luck in the world in that. And I'm really excited. I was looking into it. I'm gonna look at it some more. I think it's a really great idea. It's really especially like I want things to get better here. This is my home. This is where I love. My family's here. I've got roots here. But it would be nice to have something else as well. Or, if God forbid something happens that's not so great and I don't want to live here anymore, there's somewhere where to go. Although I would hate to have to do that. But I want to live around people in a community that of like-minded individuals. I mean, who really doesn't? So
Yeah. And well, most people do. It's just we're the minority, and we're kind of, yeah, like when I got into all of the philosophy and stuff, I just lived on the internet all the time, and I got real old real fast. And so, um,
I can't tell you how many group chats I've been in with other anarchists. And like, man, wish we lived closer together. Like, man, I wish we could see each other, like actually interact in real life. And that's because online is great for people who are, I don't even know if anyone under the umbrella of libertarian would make up 1% of the population of the states. I don't know. It's very, very small, and we're very spread out. So that the internet offers us a great way to kind of find community, but eventually, you're right, you want more. You want actual physical interaction with people, because
yeah,
that's what we're
it's,
humans. Like we need each other. We need communities. There, I'm not going to say every single person ever has needs other people, but generally 99% of people need other people in their life and need that community. So we just have to make our own instead of being in one. You have to kind of find it or
yeah,
create it.
yeah. So I'm excited about the way things are going. Like, well, with cryptocurrency, I think that really kicked everything off. No, my friends too, the Americans, they've got into it all through Ron Paul and everything like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think crypto has really been stirred people up again to, um, so yeah, that's also why I was attracted down there too, is because everything is for sale in crypto. Everybody, yeah, interacts, like pay my lawyer in crypto. We're
Uh-huh.
building houses that'll be for sale in crypto.
And these are people that are not ideologically libertarian or anything else close to that in any form. It's just it's become sort of a norm for them.
Yeah, like our lawyer and the accountant, the development management company, they through us, yeah, they've learned about crypto, and now they are diehard crypto people, and they're warming up to the philosophy behind it and everything like that. So yeah, that's exciting too, because we've got a couple like local coffee shops that started accepting crypto. We started holding a couple of crypto meetups, and yeah, week after week, 20 new faces popping in to learn about crypto and things like that. So
Awesome.
uh,
I I,
yeah.
I recently this summer I went to the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest, and I heard someone, and I'm sorry I can't. I think his last name might have been Rosenberg. I can't remember, but I heard him speak on the history of crypto, where it comes from, which I'm being not a technological person. I always wondered, like, how does this thing, how does this, why does it matter? Why is it money? Like, why would people accept it? What is it? And so it was the best talk I've ever heard on it, and he really gave a lot of good information. But one of the things that he said that really struck a chord with me is the best way to make sure that crypto stays around and that governments keep their hands off of it, especially the United States government, is to use it. We need to use it. We need to start really making it part of our everyday lives. And I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. But
Yeah.
it's and I think that's a big part of that whole crypto thing is that it needs to be used. It needs to become commonplace, so commonplace that regular people are going, "Why are you trying to shut this down? That's stupid." Like,
Yeah.
because we are such a minority. Instead of trying to change their ideology, let's just give them a product that's superior and have people get into it, and then maybe we can avoid having so much regulation or whatever. But I think that genie that is out of the bottle and it's never going back in, as much as they would try to get their nasty little fingers on it. People are going to be able to get around. Blockchain is solid, and the governments are going to have a really, really hard time um,
Yeah.
with
Um,
it.
yeah, well, until some start jumping on board with it, and they'll be light years ahead. I think it's like the Japanese population, like 20% of all men in Japan own cryptocurrency.
Really?
So also too, when crypto goes up another 10x, 100x, whatever in 5, 10 years, that's going to be a massive 20% of the population is going to be rich.
Right.
Also for governments too, like I remember the a Caribbean nation, they were talking about adopting cryptocurrency into their basket of uh, currency holdings and things like that. Argentina is because Argentina has such a horrible financial
Right.
uh, governance, and it's just all crap down there. So yeah, like adoption rates are massive there. I have a Venezuelan friend that lives down in Chile, and yeah, he got out of Venezuela through Bitcoin.
Wow.
Somebody sent him Bitcoin so he could buy a plane ticket out.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, it's
And you have
it means a lot to some people.
a currency that's not dependent on states. That's pretty amazing. And we know what the Fed does here in the U.S. And it really affects the whole world. So I think just being able to sort of just opt out of that complete nightmarish system is pretty great. And then the states don't have any say in how much something is worth. I like that. Anytime you can get rid of the state in something, I think that's a great thing. And it's you're slowly chopping away at its power. So that's always a good thing if you hit them in the pocketbook. So, but if you have any last words you'd like to say, we're kind of coming to the end of our time here. But anything you'd like people to know that we didn't cover about the project, and where can people find you and find the information? What are the websites and stuff that you'd like people to look at?
Yeah, so the apartments, there's 9 left for sale, and you can check all those out at fortgalt.com. I'm doing lots, so that's at Loberia, theloberia.com. And then, yeah, I'm also building out a Q&A page. Just I'm trying to address as many questions that people come up with, just so they can go straight to the website. And so yeah, that's still under construction a little bit. But yeah, Facebook, the Loberia. You can look at myself on Benjamin Lade on Facebook. Um, I'll be back in Chile next Saturday, just doing more videos and also, yeah, just new developments that are coming and things like that. So, yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, it was great to meet you, Sherry, and
Yeah, you
thanks.
too. Thanks for coming on. And like I said, I wish you guys all the success in the world. Anytime anybody wants to start a project that is going to make people's lives better, and give people an opportunity to make their own lives better, I think that's great. And, I kind of am excited to see what happens with the communities around where you guys are at, and just the influx of new opportunities for those people who live there, and for the economic um, good that will be
Yeah.
done by people injecting a lot of money into an area. So I really I wish you all the best. And let us know how things are going. If things go you know, when it's getting up and going, and how things are and what you've learned,
Well,
you know, that might be another episode to do at some point. But I thank you so much. And
yeah.
guys, if you would like to support the Sherry Voluntary Show, you can go to patreon.com/Sherry Voluntary. That would be much appreciated as well, so we can keep bringing you great content, bringing you people like Benjamin here who are doing things. And until next time, peace.